Good evening, and welcome to my top 5 list of horror books I've read of all time, along with a selection of horror books and authors that I'm excited to read. Join me if you dare. For real though, watch it. Don't go away, I know that was scary. I won't do it anymore. Let's do it! Good evening. We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to let you know that Beastie Weekly is still going to happen. We apologize for the inconvenience. It's going to air on a special day, which is going to be Tuesday. As you can see, things are a little out of whack here at the new studio. It's been a struggle. Mostly in the name of my college-age daughter's brand new car breaking down, and me spending the whole weekend being her taxi service, getting her car to a shop, trying to take care of all of that, and that not being taken care of in time, so having to drive for 3 hours back to college, kind of threw the weekend off of finishing up Beastie Weekly. But have no fear, it will be airing this week, Tuesday. Now we take you back to your regular, I cannot talk. Now we take you back to your regularly scheduled program. Enjoy the video, Beasties. What's up, Beasties? It's me, it's Triple B, your friendly neighborhood bearded book beast. Welcome back to the channel. I am so glad you're here. You're looking great. You are looking lovely, looking beautiful as usual. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to have a fun video today. It's spooky season. We're getting closer to Halloween. The month is flying by. We're halfway through it already. Actually, plus halfway through it. Beyond halfway through it. We're actually probably like 2/3 through it if my math is correct. Yeah, I think that is right. Alright, so let's talk about what this video is. I am going to give you my top 5 horror books I've read of all time, because I've read a lot of urban fantasy, which kind of is like horror, or dark fantasy that has some horror, but straight up horror, I haven't read a ton. I probably could do a top 10 list, but the thing is, I haven't been collecting a lot of horror books besides Stephen King stuff, so I don't have anything really to hold up. So, yeah. I'm going to keep it at 5 and then talk about all the horror books I want to read. So let's get into it. Enough of me talking so much. Let's do it. All right, first up, I've got a couple of honorable mentions. First one is a book that I finished not long ago. I thought it was fantastic. Was a wonderful zombie apocalypse story, and that was Dark Bloom by Molly McCobb. You've heard me talk about it a lot because I loved it. It was fantastic. The laughing zombies are terrifying, creepy, and Molly did a great job describing them. Anytime they're on the page, it's terrifying. But like with most of post-apocalyptic stories, some of the most terrifying things are the other people. And I just love Nick and Kate's story and their sweet, slow romance, and the diving into their trauma and their past. And you mix it all up in this terrifying zombie world. It was great. I loved it. But I usually don't like to add stuff into a top 5 or top 10 list right away, so I gotta let it simmer. But I'm pretty convinced once I get some more horror under my belt and I make a bona fide, legit top 10 list down the road, it'll probably be in there because it was fabulous. I loved it. The other one that is a honorable mention is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Loved Frankenstein, loved all the movies, all the different adaptations, and I loved the book I read back in the day, but I didn't love it quite as much as another classic that's going to be on the top 5 list, so that's why it is a honorable mention, just barely. It would be in the top 10, but just outside of the top 5. Let's get into my top 5 horror books that I've read of all time. Here we go. Alright, number 5. This one I liked a lot, and it's probably only number 5 because it could be like horror fantasy, but I still think it was horror. And that is Ex-Heroes by Peter Clines. Love this series. I need to finish it because I've only read the first 2 books. But Ex-Heroes, zombie apocalypse. The zombies are called X's. and they're just really creepy. There's this feeling of dread all the time, which I think Peter Clines does a great job with, because you have your main cast of characters is like the Justice League, superheroes. They're in an abandoned old Hollywood movie studio, and they're trying to keep all these people there safe, and they're going out on runs, and a lot like Walking Dead, sometimes the most dangerous people are other groups of humans. So yeah, it's really good. There's always this impending feeling of dread and doom going on. You never know who's going to die. Heroes die, people die. It's good. It's real good. So if you like superheroes and you like scary stuff, this is for you. This is kind of like, I say Justice League, but like they're a little, there's a lot of good character work and stuff. So it's almost more like if you took The Boys and mashed that with like The Walking Dead, that's kind of like what this is like. Is good. Is real good. All right, number 4 is Midnight Mass by F. Paul Wilson. F. Paul Wilson is the author of the Repairman Jack series that I love, but he also wrote some medical thrillers, and he also wrote some horror stuff. And I really loved Midnight Mass. It was his vampire novel. I actually do have that, and I wish I could hold it up. I'll put a picture up. But I keep all my Repairman Jack, F. Paul Wilson stuff on the top of that bookshelf back there. And one day I was trying to organize them, and a short story collection from Repairman Jack and Midnight Mass fell back behind the bookshelf all the way to the floor. And I just hadn't felt like taking all the books off to move the shelf and get it, so I will have to do that eventually. But anyway, it was really good. It focuses on a cast of characters. One is a kind of disgraced priest. He's kind of got an alcohol problem. He's depressed. There was a woman in his church that was interested in him and made a pass at him, and he said no, that would go against my vows. She got a little upset with that, told everyone he made a move on her and tried to do stuff to her. People believed him. He lost his church, lost all this stuff, and he's struggling when the vampire apocalypse happens. He's one character. And then one of his nuns is secretly like a BA vampire hunter. So that's cool. And then there is a kind of homeless man named Zeke who still comes to the church and still sees him, even though he has been disgraced, and he's like his only friend and person that he comes to see him. So those are kind of the 3 main characters. There's more, but I can't really, it's been a long time since I read it, but I remember loving it. And there is like a movie that's not the best, and they make a lot of changes, but that movie was pretty fun just because I love the book. Anyway, that's a good one. Creepy, terrifying vampire stuff. Crazy stuff happens. So definitely worth checking out. Number 3 is Cormac McCarthy's The Road. This was very good. I really liked it a lot. Father, son, dad S, as Mike at Mike's Book Reviews would say. And it's really good, really creepy. You never really know what caused this post-apocalyptic world, besides there's a sickness and illness. And the writing style is interesting, not a lot of punctuation, kind of just rambling thoughts, but you kind of always can figure out what's going on and imagine it. And I think just being a dad and having kids, just that impending doom and thought of like trying to protect your kid in this crazy, terrifying world from messed up people. It's just heartbreaking and heart-wrenching and terrifying. So this was very good. Definitely on my top 5. And then number 2, I do not have, but number 2 would be Bram Stoker's Dracula. I read this when I was in like middle school. Probably shouldn't have, because vampires have always freaked me out. But I read it, and I read the graphic novel around that time, and I loved it. I loved the movie. So, most of you probably have already heard of it. Obviously, the story of Dracula, the most famous one. and it's just good. It's real good. I liked it a lot. It was excellent. And my number one horror book of all time is It by Stephen King. Love that book. I really like the newer version that's like white with just the nose. Not the movie tie-in one, but just that one. I need to get that one for my shelf. Because I loved it. I loved that book. And I loved the newer movies, but I also love the made-for-TV movies, classic. But yeah, I love it. It was awesome. Creepy Clown, Derry, classic stuff. Again, most of you have probably heard of it. If you haven't read it, you definitely should. It is really good. The book's awesome. Besides that one weird part, we all know, if you know, you know. But other than that, it was fantastic. So that's my top 5 horror books of all time that I've read. Now let's talk about some horror books that I'm excited to read. Alright, so we're going to talk about some horror books that I'm excited to check out. Some are going to be big names you've heard of, some might be ones you haven't heard of, but these are all ones that I really want to check out, that I've always wanted to and have not yet. So, of course, we're going to start with the heaviest hitter, and that's Stephen King. There's some books of his I have not read yet. I have a lot of them, and I've read a lot, I've watched a lot, but there are some I have not read. And the biggest one I have not read that I need to read is The Stand by Stephen King. It's one that I've always wanted to read. One of these days, I'm going to conquer this beast. Have not yet. But while we're talking about Stephen King, I want to read the whole family, because I have not read anything by Joe Hill. So I'm excited to do that. Or Owen King. So I want to read everything this family has to offer eventually. Probably once I catch up on a lot of my long fantasy series that I'm trying to get caught up on, I'll dive into the King family world, and I'm excited about it. All right, and then speaking of The Stand, I just started reading Robert McCammon's Speaks the Nightbird, Matthew Corbett series. Loving that. But I've never read Swan Song, and I really want to read that. It's a lot like The Stand, but different, and I've heard great things about it. Have never read it, so definitely want to read this as well. Another one I'm real excited to read is John Dies at the End by Jason Pargin. Definitely want to read this and his other stuff. This is one that I've had for a while. I love this edition. It just looks cool, but it sounds like a lot of fun. It's a cult classic, and he's got a lot of other really cool books. So this is definitely one that I want to get into eventually down the road. And then Stephen Graham Jones. I've got his newest book, I Was a Teenage Slasher, but I want to read all of his stuff. He's got My Heart is a Chainsaw, that whole series. And yeah, I just have always wanted to check out his books. They sound really cool, and this one sounds awesome. Sounds kind of like a nice slasher movie, but where you kind of side with the slasher killer. So I can't wait to check that one out. And then another big one that I've wanted to read, and I was maybe going to do it this Halloween, but I did not. Eventually I will, is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. And this one, I talked about it before. It's in my top 10 video of books that freak me out to read because they just seem so dense or whatever. And this one is written cool. It's like a bunch of like articles and like diary entries and all this kinds of stuff, all pieced together to tell a story. So it sounds like a lot of fun. Definitely want to read this down the road. Another author I want to check out is Chuck Tingle. I have his newest one, Bury Your Gaze. It sounds like a lot of fun, and he mixes some humor with horror, and it's supposed to be really good. I think Camp Damascus is his other one, so definitely want to check him out. Also want to check out Gabino Iglesias. I have Devil Takes You Home, his second one. I think the sequel to this is out now. I don't know if this is probably more urban fantasy or if it's just horror, but I've heard really good things about it, and that cover is sweet, but definitely want to check him out. One that I'm really excited is Keith Rawson, Fever House. Look at that cover. So cool. this like demon's hand that these hitmen kind of get, not exactly hitmen, they're more like the hired muscle for like a loan shark. They go and beat people up to get the money, shake them down, and they find this demon hand, and yeah, it just sounds like a lot of fun. Can't wait to read that one. Then some dark horror romance, Butcher and the Blackbird. Have heard a lot of good things about this, about a couple that kills other serial killers, so they're serial killers, and it sounds like a lot of fun. It's very dark, gory. Definitely want to check it out. And then I want to read some Josh Malerman. Instance Around the House I have. I've never read Bird Box. Want to read that one. I read some of his short stories and really liked them, so excited to check some of his books out. And then these ones are a little more in the horror fantasy, but I do really want to read Red Rabbit by Alex Gressian. I read a prequel short story and loved it. I like his writing style. So this is like a Wild West fantasy horror mashup that I cannot wait to read. Dead Silence. I met S.A. Barnes at a convention at a Comic-Con and got this book signed from her, and she was super nice, and I've heard such good things about this one and her second one. Can't wait to check those out. And finally, I actually have read probably a quarter of this, and I was loving it. It is very dark, very horrific and scary, but very cool. It's about like an demon hunter who's, just scraping by in New York City and taking jobs to make ends meet and make money, and has a lot of addictions and vices, and is a very flawed character. But I love it. Love it. And I would love to read more from Cassandra Caw and Richard Kadri. I have a lot of their other books, so definitely excited to read this one. And this has a beautiful cover, and I also love the end pages are barbed wire, and the naked hardcover has an A for the A Train. So it's actually a really cool, just standard edition, but definitely want to check that out. So there you have it. There's some authors I want to read, and there's a lot more. I'm getting ready to finally read some Nick Cutter and Grady Hendrix here in the next couple weeks. I'm excited about that. And so there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of horror I cannot wait to read. I want to try to mix it in throughout the year, and hopefully not only read it around this time of year. But there you go. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know some more recommendations, because a lot of you are probably much more well-versed in the horror genre than I am. I've read a lot of urban fantasy, like I said, but not a lot of horror. So either way, I love urban fantasy too. So dark fantasy, urban fantasy, or horror, let me know what you think I might like, or some of what your favorites are. And that's all I got. If you have not subscribed yet, if you had fun today and you would like to join us in the Beastie community, please like and subscribe. Helps the channel grow, makes me happy, but most importantly, we will become Beasties, Beast Friends. You'll know when we have videos coming out, so you can watch them right away. And you'll also be able to vote on our community poll, the question of the day. I put out every day, and then we vote on it, and then I do a video in the evening or the next morning to talk about what the winning vote was and what I would answer. So it's a lot of fun. We'd love to have you. It's a great community full of wonderful people. Until I see you in the next video, be brave, be beautiful to one another, and be beastly. We'll see you, Beasties.